It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.
And now the host, Calvin Logan.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Logan Power Show. It's me, your host, Calvin Logan. And I want you to all who are watching us right now to stay focused, stay attentive, and watch what we are doing. God has a plan for us, and he has a plan for you. So I want you all to sit back, relax, and know that God has a plan for everyone who's watching us. So without further ado, I won't bring a first-time here guest, the Logan Power Show. He is the chief, he's the elder, and minister, Mr. John Henry. How you doing, sir? I think you got to unmute yourself real fast, Mr. Henry.
I'm doing great, this brother. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just great. I can hear you just fine. Yes, sir. All right. Well, let's get to you and what you are in charge of. The Gullah Geechee culture. You are the chief elder for your district. So tell us more about how you got started and tell us what you're doing in your area.
Wow. I'm going to try to be as brief as possible, but I got to let you know I can't get long-winded. So I won't go all the way back to my hometown. I start from South Carolina. Me and my family, we relocated to South Carolina from Utica, New York. And I started to do extensive research on my family tree. And now I'm the third oldest out of 5 siblings of the boys. And so back in 2013, I met this lady named Miss Rodriguez. We call her Mother Bunny. She runs the Gullah Geechee Museum here in Georgetown, South Carolina. So talking with her, and she was telling me about how our people, our ancestors, the Gullah Geechee people, was always here in South Carolina. And by that saying that with the rice fields and the cotton fields and indigo, that what made South Carolina as rich as it is today. So she said, son, where your parents from? So I said, my parents is from Manor, South Carolina, which is Clarendon County. She said, oh, that is Gullah Geechee territory. So your mother and your grandmother are really not African American. They African in America, but they're Gullah Geechee. And that set a whole new spectrum for me of my life and my quest and my journey. And so looking at that and taking it to my heart. See, one thing as us as a people, we need to find our own depth. Excuse me, getting twisted up. We need to find our own identity. And with that given to say, because I knew that I was disconnected, I know I was traveling, I know I was always seeking. And so finding that notion that I'm Gullah Geechee, I started doing a little bit more extensive research. Now, at that time, I would just minister. And talking with her, rest in peace, she transitioned about 5 years ago, but her husband is still running the Gullah Geechee Museum here in Georgetown. And I have a lot of recordings, and my wife met her first. And automatically, I said, well, a lot of the stories that they sharing, I said, we need to document it. We need to record it. So just in case, our creator calls them home, we have our own library straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And so I just happened to meet her one day and we started talking and talking, and I just grabbed my cell phone and just started recording because it was in my spirit to record and learning about our people and how the language kind of like transform our life, but yet we was disconnected because when the children in South Carolina was going to school, it wasn't permitted for them to speak the Gullah Geechee language. And so that's how we got disconnected. But I always heard of Geechee, and they used to call in the north. They used to, and probably in the south, they used to call, "Oh, you Geechee," but they said that because we like to eat a lot of rice. And so coming to South Carolina, then the Gullah happened to come into play, and I'm always open minded and try to do the best research and uncovering a lot of information that was kept from us for decades. And so I took a journey into Clarendon County to Manning, where my grandmother, she lived it to be 102 years old. And so now, mind you, this is my first time in South Carolina. And so going out to see my grandmother's house, it was like I felt a warm sensation of good spirits around me. Her house was maybe a one bedroom house with a kitchen, but the outhouse was on the outside. But yet I wanted to go inside of there. I wanted to go inside of there and just get a feeling of what the structure looked inside, like the cast iron stove and stuff like that, what they used to cook on. And as I was approaching now, the house was all covered with woods and trees and vines and everything. But being in the north, I always played in the woods, so it didn't faze me. So as I was getting closer, maybe about 20 feet from the structure, from the home, the house, my cousin pulled me back from my belt. He said, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going inside." He said, "You don't want to go in there. There might be water moccasins in there, snakes and everything in there." And he said, "I want to take it the best interest to go in there." So I said, "Well, can't we smoke them out?" He said, "Yeah, we can do that, but who going to bring the torch up in there to start smoking them out? Because he ain't going up in there." I said, "Well," I just started taking pictures and everything of it, of the house and the land, because maybe I think it was about 26 acres of land my great grandfather had out there. And so now the house is torn down, but they left the chimney. And matter of fact, I think I'm pretty sure I took one of the bricks, because back then our people, they handmade the red brick. So I said, well, I'm going to take this one brick and I'm going to use it as, just put it in my office, just as a reminder of my grandmother's home. So getting back to talking with Mother Bunny, she was telling me all the stories, and I was overwhelmed at that, how our people was helping the Confederate Army with their uniforms. And she was explaining how they made the dye, and it was a big barrel, maybe 20 by 20, and it was full with a certain type of grape. I'm pretty sure it probably was a purple grape. And but the slaves, they was able to go inside there, and they barefooted, and they was crushing it to make the dye. Now, mind you, keep in mind, back then we didn't have the technology that we have today, so a lot of them got different diseases, what we call cancer today. And so she was telling me how they colored the Confederate uniforms and everything. And I mean, a lot of stories that she told me, I keep to heart. So moving forward, it it just seemed like my whole life that I was always searching, and that there's were other things in life that I needed to know about. Now, if you know anything about, our people here in South Carolina, and probably other states like Mississippi and Alabama, a lot of stuff went down in the country, and but yet it was that community was so tight. Everybody know everybody. Everybody watch over their children. Just like we use the terminology, it takes a village to raise a child. And so it just like when they was telling those stories, I used to always come in the house at the age of 8. Now, mind you, the way the spirit comes over me to bring this message out to you, I may jump from here to there, but please follow me closely, because I used to always be around our elders, even when I was young. And I remember my mom used to always chase me out the house because she said, "Boy, you don't need to be in here," because they were telling some stories that I care not to repeat, but I won't repeat the ones that my grandmother used to say, because she was kind of stern. We call it strict. And when you have your lights on in the house, she made sure that all lights was off and they was unplugged, even the radio or the TV. And because she see how we used to go in and out the refrigerator, she said, "Son, come and sit down. Let me tell you, way before we had the refrigerator, there was a man that used to come to Clarendon County in our community, which is Manning, with a horse and buggy, with a big block, several blocks of ice on it. And that's how they used to keep their meat cold and fresh overnight. Now, each family, they had their own croaker sack. So what they did, they put the ice inside the croaker sack and put the meat on top of it. And some of them put a lot of salt on the meat to keep from maggoting or whatever, the bugs coming in. Then they bury it in the ground. That was their refrigerator, the ground. So I was amazed, because now I'm looking around and say, wow, we got a nice refrigerator, nice deep freezer and everything. I just couldn't really grasp, but I understand what she was speaking of. And so she always say, waste not, want not. Don't get no more than what you can chew. And so learning all about that, and learning about my great uncle Gilbert Henry in Clarendon County, which was with an AME church. They the one that started the Board of Education, Brown versus Wade, my great uncle Gilbert Henry. So all of this is linking to who I am today. And I tell people that it's just like a seed. You plant a seed, it start growing, and then it has the base of the tree, which we call the trunk or the stalk of the tree. And then you have the many branches. And so we all are connected to that one. And so it was like, okay, I'm finding out Gullah Geechee, I'm finding out about my great uncle, and I say everything is coming that is already inside of me, because we are our living ancestors, in the flesh. And so just reflecting back and moving forward, when she was telling me about the Gullah Geechee people, I said, okay, I did the research, and then I found out by this lady's name, Queen Quet, and she is the chiefess of the Gullah Geechee Nation, which stems from Wilmington, North Carolina, all the way up to Jacksonville, Florida. Now, we know we are the alpha of this planet here, respectfully. We are the first people. But yet, suffices to say, is that under James Clyburn, one of our representatives in Columbia, South Carolina, he the one that opened up that corridor, was pushing for it to be open, in 2009. I'm pretty sure it was 2009. So now everything is starting to connect. We know where the territory starts at. We know where it ends at. But it goes much further than that, and we'll get into that towards the end. So I said, well, I need to meet her. So I went up to Buford. They was having something on the waterfront. Me, my chiefess, and my princess. We rode up to Buford and had a wonderful time. There was a lot of vendors displaying different things, and but I wanted to not only introduce myself to her, but I wanted to bring her a very important message. So I said, well, we'll just go ahead and take some pictures. And I said, I need to talk with you. And she said to get in contact with one of her people, and then they'll give me the email and all the information that I need to get in contact with her. So moving on, we posed and took some pictures and everything. She said, "Yes, I heard about you, Minister, over there in South Carolina, shaking a lot of trees over there." I said, "Well, I was born and raised in South Carolina. The community that I was born in was Italians and Jews that respected my family. So, and I see where I get a lot of my spunk from, my energy from, is from my ancestors. So I said, I do have a very important message to speak with you because I see that the Gullah Geechee Nation is being infiltrated because I was invited to sit in at a meeting that Miss Bunny wasn't able to attend in Wilmington, North Carolina. I said, well, it'll be my honor, to go in front of the Gullah Geechee corridor. Now my heart is just pounded, with excitement, my adrenaline going and everything. And so being there in Wilmington, it was like, okay, I'm expecting just us to be there. But it was more of them there than it was us. And so, I just roll with everything, but sometimes you just get a gut feeling about certain things, and especially given the fact of how slavery started in South Carolina. They said these people they still up to something, what I'm
Yes,
saying?
sir.
They just want to keep us in a low frequency, a low level, and just give us enough to keep us happy, at
Sure.
least some of us.
I
And
get
but
that. Man.
yet getting the information, taking pictures with a lot of the members that's on the chamber and everything, and getting cards and contact information. So I told the chiefess, I said, look, this is not the time and the place to discuss what I need to discuss with you. So
Right.
I'll send you an email, and then we can go from there. So after several attempts, I'm not finna to cut through the chase. I talk straight out. And so after several attempts not being able to contact her through different channels, it was unsuccessful. And so, but yet, just about 7 months ago, we did a reimmittance of some slave bones in Pawleys Island, where I had the honor to participate, but my name wasn't on anything because I got the memo last. So all the programs and everything was already done.
Got it.
So going back to 2013, I was on with about 15 to 30 people that was on the National Council of Elders. Now
Wow.
this is how the chief is coming in now. And so being on there, I mean, we was on conference calls 2 times a week for 3 years straight. That was
Wow.
the longest I ever been participating on one conference call for 3 years straight, like clockwork.
Sure.
And so what had happened is that we was looking for a chief to be one of my lights was flickering. We was
Okay.
looking for a chief to go ahead and step up. So we sent out about 100 invitations to some top I call master teachers
Got it.
dealing with Kemet, dealing with the 42 principles of my and just dealing with our culture. And so we had some people by the name of Leonard Jeffries. You might have heard of Leonard Jeffries and Professor James Smalls, which James Smalls is originally from Georgetown, South Carolina. So what was given to say that out of that 100, everybody had something else going on at that time. So it was suggested, said, well, Minister, I think we're going to have to put you on the seat as chief. As chief, would you accept that? I said, I'll be more than honored to feel and to take that seat and that responsibility. And so the next week we end up going through the rituals and the ceremonies and stuff like that to make everything official. So now I'm overwhelmed again. You know, I'm talking with my wife at that time and my daughter and asked them, do you think I have to keep the position? Well, you went this far, you might as well keep on going. And I have to give acknowledge to my chiefess Purcell Henry and my daughter, my princess Alethea Henry, for standing by me all the way, all the way, and the rest of my children as well. But they grown, they out on their own. So I'm talking about what's in the immediate family here.
I hear you on
And
that.
so we was doing a lot of research because it just seemed like we seen what we was going to be experiencing now today. So and we knew that what's was going on is that a lot of let me cut that off. I'm sorry about that. A
Sure.
lot of programs that we were setting in place that we knew sooner or later we would have to have our own system because the way that this government system has been running, you know, saying it was inedible that we couldn't stay on the bottom of the totem pole any longer. You know, and we come from greatness. We come from kings and queens and pharaohs, you know what I'm saying? So, and we're the one that started the first civilization. And so, doing a lot of manifestos, a lot of planning and development. I mean, the crew that we had, I mean, was phenomenal. We had everybody in different sections, you know, that handled those responsibility real great. And so that's how I became the chief elder. So I said, well, I was going to drop the minister, so I just put a chief elder minister and
Okay.
just roll with it like that. And so, being on that call for about 3.5 years, I decided to step down because I seen something wasn't going right. And I said, well, I'd rather go ahead and step down. So, about 10 of my people that I brought to the National Council of Elders, when we left, they left with me. They said, well, if you leaving, Chief, we going with you. So that carries me into this present day. Um, Understanding our culture, our language, is like somebody just shine a new light on us, you know. Now, just like for instance, you have the Koreans. They know all about their culture, all about their way of life. You have the Hispanics, you have the Germans, the Russians, and the so on. But we, as I hate to use that terminology, African Americans, I could use that terminology of melanated people if I can. And we the only ones that been disconnected. But when you understand why we was disconnected, then all of those dots start to shine light and say, okay, That's why they was keeping us down, because they knew if we ever got a hold of this information of how great we are, even to this day, that their world would have been over with. You see what I'm saying? Because somebody got to go in the bathroom and change the toilet paper, right? So we know the chain of commands of corporate America and employees and bosses and stuff. But we as a people, we were so disconnected because we was like transformed into a European mindset that kind of like basically destroyed us. And that's why a lot of these school systems will label our children as learning disability and ADHD and all that, because they don't really feel the connection in the classroom, you know. And so now that's why a lot of our history, even in the North, I never heard of Gullah Geechee. I heard about the Geechee. I heard about Christopher Columbus. They was pumping more of European into my consciousness. You see what I'm saying? That I didn't even really know who I am, but I knew I existed, you know. And so uncovering a lot of the truth set me free. And now that this information is out about the Gullah Geechee and about Kemet, now you got to remind now some of the videos that I have seen. I said, wait a minute, you can tell by the clothing that they was wearing, the hairstyle, the butterfly collars that we used to wear back in the day. Yeah, I had a few of them too. And you could tell that those clips was done on probably at that time was an 8mm film projector. And so, Dr. Whalens and all those right there, and how many more can I mention at this time? Francis Cross Whalens, Leonard Jeffrey, Dr. Ben Yakiman, and many, many others. And I said, wait a minute, then why this information didn't go viral? Because it wasn't time. But yet back then, before this great information age that we are now experiencing with the cell phones and social media and stuff like that, back then it was the word of gossip that moved it faster. And anytime in the village, which we now call the community, when somebody heard something, it went to the next door. Next minute, it went down the street. But then it was a clash in there because you had religion on the scene with all the denomination. Then you had spirituality coming in at the same time. So it was a clash because one was shedding more light than the other with truth and an understanding and not an understanding. Because if you look back at Kemet of 10 million years ago, and then you say, well, Christianity is only 2,000 years old, then you got some issues, right? So, moving forward, the information was out. I was able to retrieve and do a lot of research over the last 20 years. And so I had to get validation for myself, because personally, I've been misled. Being brought up in a Baptist home, going to church 4 or 5 times a week, even after school. I was tired. I did come home, did my homework, and then at 7 o'clock we had to be a Bible study and all that stuff right there. So growing up in a Baptist home with the Church of God in Christ in Utica, New York, I still felt a disconnect from something. I said, wait a minute, out of everything that's going on in the world, there's something missing. We have all these churches and all these synagogues and everything, but yet there's still hell on earth. So my journey from Christianity to the Nation of Islam, for being in the Nation of Islam for 28 years, only as a supporter. Because at the age of 22, I was just getting in an area where I'm raising my own family, you know. And so moving forward, that was another stepping stone that I can put on my belt of what I have experienced in life. And so getting back to South Carolina is that I see a lot, I hear a lot. I never reject anyone. I open up my doors to Jehovah Witness. I open up my doors to the Moors, and we break bread and sit down in my dining room. And I offer them, if it's hot outside, I offer them a cold bottle of water. They bring their books and materials out. I said, well, I ain't bringing nothing out because I know automatically it's going to be a conflict. And I just want to show some love and community involvement. And so as we was going through some of the chapters of the book and they was telling me about this person, that person, I said, you know, I'm not trying to turn you around from where you are at now, but sometimes we got to listen and keep seeking. See, if a person do not keep seeking, then they mentally dead because they stuck in the rut, so to speaking. And so, but we ended with a handshake, and they was on their way. So, but yet I kept hearing drum beats, you know, at night. And so the next morning I called Miss Bunny. I said, Miss Bunny, I said, what is these beats I keep hearing? She said, oh, you hearing the ancestor spirit. That's the call. I said, what are they calling me for? So after she explained several different scenarios, you know, and I said, well, when I go home tonight, I'm going to think about what you said and then let it resonate in my mind and my heart and my spirit, but I'm going to hold on to it. And so you ever felt like you've been somewhere before, but you know you ain't been there? and we call it menage a trois or something like that. Like I've been there before, and I recognize certain places, but that's that ancestor spirit inside of you. You know, that because they DNA. Just look at it. Our ancestors from a million years ago, their DNA is inside of us. And see, these Europeans know our genetic makeup better than we know it. And that's a shame. So leaving the National Council of Elders and starting my own crew, and which we call Hotep Village, located at 1527 Front Street here in the wonderful city of Georgetown. And we've been rolling ever since 2017. And I haven't sat down at one time. And I attend a lot of city council meetings and a lot of county council meetings and things like that. So, but that's a part of my journey through life. And the most memorable experience about the Gullah Geechee and the culture and how they cook, you know what I'm saying? And with the shrimp, the crab, the lobsters and stuff like that. Now, see, now in New York, all my dad used to bring by was just the clams. I didn't know nothing about no lobster. I ain't know nothing about no shrimp. I ain't know nothing about no oysters until I met my chiefess, because she's from McClellanville. And when I first came down here, going back to the first time, she exposed me to a lot of the cooking and the traditions down here as well in South Carolina. And the deep woods of McClellanville, South Carolina, and On Dog and all those communities right there. So just walking through this life with this experience, I mentioned to a lot of people, I said, this is who we are, respectfully, of your denominations. We are divine spiritual beings having a human experience. That's it. And see, that'll cut through the chase that we can't pit one against each other. I'm a Pentecostal, I'm this and I'm that. But if you say that you're a divine spiritual being having a human experience, there ain't nobody gonna argue with you because those experiences could be on a positive scale or a negative scale. And we call it good or evil. But I like to speak positive words of energy that's going to help enlighten us as a people. And so, like I said earlier, we all have to get validation for ourselves, you know, but never stop seeking for the truth. The Gullah Geechee culture is rich. It is rich and more valuable than any precious gold or silver because that's our culture, that's our heritage that we've been disconnected from. Now, just recently, within the last, I'm looking at the calendar, I'd say about 9 months ago, I met a gentleman out in Charleston. I will not say his name at this time respectfully, but he was a Hebrew Israelite. And then after that, he moved on and got some information about the Angullah. So I said, what is Angullah? And so he gave me the story about the Angullah people. Now, the Angullah people, from my recollection and understanding, it was Angullah before it was Gullah. So I said, okay. I said, no, boy, you can tell when truth's starting to come out. You see what I'm saying? What was hidden in the darkness coming to the light. So I said, brother, go on and tell me the story. So he said, well, since you in Georgetown, and Georgetown is one of the places where the slaves came in from Nigeria and Sierra Leone to the ports of Charleston and to the port of Georgetown. I said, get out of here. So now I'm reflecting on my life and my journey. It was meant for me to be here in Georgetown. You see what I'm saying? Everybody has a purpose. You got to find your purpose. So he went on and tell me the story. And I said, well, you're going to have to write a book. There's a book or some research that I can dig a little bit further into Angullah people. And he said, sure. He said, brother, would you mind being the chief? I said, well, I'm already a chief. What you got going on? He said, well, we need a chief in Georgetown to represent the Angullah. I said, well, after you give me all the documentations and share some videos with me, he was supposed to go ahead and give me a manuscript, something that I can go ahead and digest, read it and digest and learn the cultures and stuff like that. So me and my family, we went to Charleston to be officially named chief of the Angullah tribe here in South Carolina. They call it Omachi, you know. And that carries a lot of weight and responsibility. And so now, mind you, when we started the National Council of Elders, I automatically took on the responsibility of everybody in South Carolina, all of our people. Because if we ain't on the same level, somebody got to be somewhere to be able to shed light at the end of the tunnel and say, look, we need to re-examine this, we need to re-examine that. And so Queen Quet knew that I was in contact with the Angullah people, and mainly the ambassador in Nigeria. And so one thing was going to another. Now things starting to like shake a little bit, and I said, what's going on here? why would they have a Gullah Geechee nation and they knew or didn't know about the Ngullah? Now, Queen Quet, to my understanding, she was self-appointed, and that's fine. And I always say, well, how can you have a chiefess if you don't have a king? You know what I'm saying? They're like a pair. You gotta have a chief, you gotta have a king. And so anyway, I'm learning a lot as I go along. I'm developing and I'm taking some of the things with a grain of salt, you know. And so moving forward again, being in Clarendon County and riding down the roads, I seen a cotton field. And so I told my wife, I said, do you think it'd be all right if I pull over and I just grab a piece of that cotton over this? She said, if you don't get shot, you know what I'm saying, it's good. I said, well, it's blowing across the road, so I'm not going to go on the field. I'm just going to go on the side of the ditch and grab some. And I grabbed some and put it in a tube, and it had a black seed in it. And it just, my wife was telling me she remember when she was working and the cotton fields coming up with the thorns and everything. So you had to be an expert to pick cotton. Because not you're going to have blisters and everything on your hand. So after we went through the ceremony, it was called the Reconnection, the Gullah and Gullah Kingdom. And so I said, well, this is just another branch. So now all this truth is coming out, and, you know, I receive it 100%. And so now learning more about the Ngullah, I got Gullah Geechee history down pat. The trials and errors and the challenges. A lot of people was killed. They was hung, they was mutilated. Some fled and went to the north just to seek refuge and everything. But yet at the end of the day, you know, our story needs to be told again and brought to our youth, to the next seed. Because if we don't capture it now, it's going to be lost forever and ever.
And that's why we got you here on the Logan Power Show. And I believe that your message that you gave today was very inspirational. I pray that everyone who has heard this wisdom, these nuggets, are blessed by what they've heard. I always say this, like, you know, wisdom is a lifeline, and it takes a while to learn. It's going to take a process. So for those that are watching the Logan Power Show, I want you all to take your time to digest, write your notes down, as Chief Elder Minister John Henry has just given us some great information. I want you all who are watching me, subscribe today to the Logan Power Show. Hey, go to our website today, www.theloganpowershow.us. Email us to loganpowershow@gmail.com. Understand this, nationwide, worldwide, we're here to make a difference, be informative, but learn. But hey, that's all the time I got. My name is Calvin, the Logan Power Show. Nationwide, worldwide, we love y'all, and we'll see you soon. Bye now.
I say.
It's the Logan Power Show. Inspirational and motivational. It's the Logan Power Show. Informational to help you grow. Logan Power Show.